Babaji.
Namaste, Anurag.
So here we are again.
Yes.
I thought we would take the opportunity to discuss a few of your books. Actually, three of the books, which are about our three ideals: Sarada, Ramakrishna, and Vivekananda. And I believe that this series of three started with the Sri Sarada Vijnanagita. Okay, and I think it was a very interesting beginning. And if you could, as you've explained in the introduction, you had some inspiration come upon you to do this book. Could you talk about exactly what happened?
Yes, it is going back a ways in time, but as you'll be able to tell, or the reader will be able to tell by looking at the cover, I had this advanced vision of a kind of series of books called Vijnanagitas. In India, I told it to the Swamis and said, well, that's kind of a long word for nowadays, even for India, people in India. But basically it's just Gita is a song. We know there's an Avadhuta Gita from the Avadhut and Krishna's Gita, Song Celestial and all. And Devi Gita, and Shiva Gita, there's all these Gitas, so people should be able to figure it out. But along with the idea for these songs of Sri Sarada and Swami Vivekananda, which we'll also talk about today, the Sri Sarada Vijnanagita and the Swami Vivekananda Vijnanagita, came this idea of putting on the cover, making it hardbound and putting on the cover her feet, because they had her step in lac dye and then put on cloths, and we still have some of those that her holy feet touched. So that was why this was the cover. And then evidently Swamiji, when Perlian photography was beginning to come out, that he went and had his hand photographed that way too. So I thought, well, that would be a good image for the Swamiji Vijnanagita. With Holy Mother, we drew from other books that Swamis put out. Swami Nityananda was her direct disciple, and later put the Holy Mother book out, and then books started to follow in turn. So I excerpted from those to make a song and put it into categories in each of the books, so that we know what they say about these certain important spiritual precepts.
There are so many books about her sayings, and what inspired you to do something in this format?
Well, to have, you might say, because later people called it a bedside book. I mean, there are a lot of people in today's world, and even amongst devotees and followers of religion and philosophy, that don't really have a lot of time to spend in the Jnana Yoga or with study, even maybe doing very many bhakti exercises like pujas and things. It's just, at least in the West particularly, that's slow to catch on, if ever. So it would be really good to have a kind of bedside book that you could pick up and just read a sloka of in English without burdened down maybe by the Sanskrit, which would be your more formal or traditional study of the Gita. You'd actually be taking in Svadhyaya style, yogically, both the Sanskrit and the meaning of the words in the English. And so this book just pretty much her words as we have them in as simple English as possible, that we can get information from her on even the most abstruse subjects in a very simple way, which was her style of teaching, and although very profound too.
Very profound. In the introduction you describe a 10-day and 10-night period where this came out of you, which is unusual. You don't usually talk about your spiritual experiences, especially in writing, but can you talk about that a little bit? As you described it in the introduction, it seemed like these deep spiritual moods came through you for this period of time.
Yeah, it's very good to pay attention to your moods, and unfortunately most people have to do that by the teaching of the three gunas. What kind of a restless mood am I in, or how depressed or slothful or energyless I am today acts as a teaching for you to try and get back into balance. But once you hit your stride in spiritual life, you've done 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 70, like my teacher, years of constant practice, then all of that should pretty much be put behind you. when I did the mantra of Sri Sarada for 10, 15 years, and like the retreat we just had here in the Columbia River Gorge on Tripura Upanishad, where the three cities, and you were at the retreat, so you know what I'm speaking of, is that you sort of take up residence in this city of the mantra, and as you do, you abandon the world, or the world, and the world as a result just becomes that city, and you live in it. So then you have the advantage of having deep moods come over you, bhavas they're called. So yeah, I would admit to some of those in my own ruminations and studies around her with her mantra, and so I was then compelled to go ahead and put it into book form.
Did the mood precede the book, or did you plan on doing the
Yeah.
book and then? Okay,
Yeah.
so it was spontaneous arising. Well, the introduction and the format of the book itself, it kind of calls you to sit down with it in a very meditative mood. It's a little bit like Lex Hickson's book, Great Swan. It's almost like you're watching a video. So you are almost called to imagine yourself in her presence. So it reads very like almost like a narrative. You're in her presence. It's very powerful in that regard. One of the things that really struck me is that she is so unassuming and modest, and then on the other hand, she'll say things like, "Where can you find someone like me? You know, I am Mahamaya herself." That you know, we'll say people call me a goddess, and I think it must be so. It's very interesting that those two sides of her, and the book brings it out.
Yes, and the same with Swami Vivekananda, where you could say probably the emphasis it was laid more on his great realization. Then all of a sudden every once in a while make these stunning admittances about how many thousands of mistakes he has made, and that God did everything good through him, and anything that was a mistake was his fault. So I don't think that's just a kind of forced humility on their part. I think they're just really spontaneous that way. When it's time to be great, you should step forward and be great, whether you're monk or householder. And when it's time to be humble, you should also recognize that. It would be much like these moods that come upon you. You follow them, and follow the voice within you, as they say.
In the writing of this book, did you gain any additional insights to Holy Mother during the process of writing it? Was it?
Yes, of course, and because again, if people don't take the time to actually sit down with it, and we call that manana in our tradition. You have to hear it, shravana, then roll it around in your mind, manana, and then nididhyasana. You get your own experience out of it. So you'll never get these higher moods or these experiences out of it if you don't actually roll around in your mind and for a while. It's the Western style of education, just to know it quickly and sort of put it in a memory bank and then call it up for some test that you have to do, pass the test, and then it's gone. You have to go look it up later, but it's really the way of divine memory that when you're born into this world, everyone comes to know after the fact, if they come to know at all. So ignorance is a covering that's there. It's not actual. Most people think because I got knowledge through getting rid of ignorance, that ignorance was then real, and I got knowledge, and then my soul grows, and everything happens in time. But all the seers are saying that the Atman doesn't grow. It's not in time. It's not in space. And so then you have to figure that out. Is that knowing after is just what happens when you come through the curtain of nations and take a body. And the quicker you work on regaining the divine memory of everything that is known by the soul, the quicker you'll get rid of that misfiance that you're growing or you're learning.
Well, of course, that covering of our essential nature, which you're talking about, is Maya, and she says, I myself am Mahamaya. What does she mean by that?
There's a definite distinction to make between Maya and Mahamaya. Somebody wrote me just yesterday from back east and actually asked that question and said, well, she has nothing to do with Maya, right? I went, well, wait a minute here. Actually, she's in and through Maya. She uses Maya. She's the master of Maya. That's why we call her Mahamaya. So name, form, time, space, and causality is the definition, fivefold, that Swamiji gave us as a definition for Maya when people were calling it illusion here in America and in the world, even in India back in 1893 and before. So he clarified that up for us actually, and then he had an article in one of his books, Jnana Yoga, called Maya, a Statement of Fact. So it was a completely different idea of what Maya is. And when we hear her say something like that, then we know that there's a master, or in this case a mistress, a progenitress of Maya, and she's watching the whole thing. And she is divorced in it, but she can as easily attach to it and detach from it as the case may require. Just like, say, a college math teacher, has to somehow be able to go back and teach first grade arithmetic or something, third grade arithmetic. He has to put himself in that level, and then he can, even though he's far beyond it. So something like that is happening in the case of the Divine Mother of the Universe, where she helps her children on all levels, but herself is, transcendent of it. So Mahamaya, rather than, or Mahashakti.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished Navaratri here, 9 days, 9 nights of worship of her. So, and Tripura Sundari retreat was all about those 9 goddesses that you worship.
She's so hard to know.
That's what Durga means.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
hard to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to read the affirmation at the end of the book because it's so beautiful. Formerly, one had to make many arrangements to see the Holy Mother. Now, sitting at one place, if someone applies one's heart, one can duly find her. Discarding her physical body, the Mother is now bestowing her blessings much more. Whoever calls upon her, the indwelling Mother approaches them and settles all their problems. It's very beautiful. In fact, I was going through a very difficult time recently, and I remember thinking about my mother, and said, "Ma, what am I going to do?" And she said, "I'm not your mother. Holy Mother is your mother." So, what is the? She's so difficult to know. What is the best way to contact her? Of course, reading this book is really a wonderful way.
Yeah.
But she's so veiled.
Yeah. Well, that affirmation at the end there is very beautiful for sure. As my teacher said, Swami Shishananda, picture behind me there, he told us, I've tried to show you the Mother in the altar, on the altar, as we worship and offer flowers and sing songs to her and various things. Now I want to try and show you the Mother in the shrine of my heart. And then he added to that, that's how, the mantra is important for that. That's how I contacted her after I left India and came to America. So he's saying in so many words that she had passed before he left India, and then so he had lost her in the outer city. But then he went into the inner city and worshipped, and that's mantra. The outer worship is the first path to the first city, and then repetition of the mantra is the second path to the second city, which is her inner form. You'll begin to have visions of her and see her. And then third city is transcendent, where you're doing all inner worship. You transform the whole land into gold. It was Maya, now it's Mahamaya kind of thing, or even beyond.
Yeah.
It becomes the light of Brahman in Samadhi. So
Yeah.
all of that is a kind of spiritual alchemy that we're trying to put into operation for our own spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah. Well, I think this book is really a wonderful assist to that kind of alchemy, because you can't just read it, you have to be with it, So, and I also would like to mention that we also have a recording of this as well.
Yes.
And your wife, Loke, did the narration, and you also did the voice introduction and some music in the background. And it's a real treat to be able to keep that going, sitting down listening to it, or even while you're driving, even though you have to be careful with that,
Yeah.
driving while listening to that.
You
But
can hear that on what format?
we have an audio version on Audible of the Sri Sarada Vijnanagita, which is a wonderful treat, and to listen to it with the wonderful narration and music, and it's another way to imbibe the teaching through sound.
My child, you have arrived. Come, I am overjoyed to see you. There is a pillow there. Bring it and lie down near me. My child, I bless you from the bottom of my heart that you live long, attain devotion, and enjoy peace. Peace is the principal thing. One needs peace alone.